Good evening and welcome to the People's Platform. Our topic of discussion tonight is the role of artificial intelligence or AI in powering innovation. How will it have implications on the individual, on society, on the country and globally? To help us understand, we've invited to our studios Dr. Ramesh Shanmuganathan. He's an entrepreneur and a thought leader in the Sri Lankan IT industry. Good evening and welcome.
Good evening, Sonali. Thanks for having me.
Lovely to have you here. Ramesh, if you could initially set the stage for us, speak to us about the evolution of AI, and if you could draw a parallel between artificial intelligence and the human brain.
Thanks. So I think if you really look at artificial intelligence, is a subdiscipline of computer science where I think it was humans' attempt to mimic a human brain and human intelligence in terms of studying, stimulating, and seeing how do we codify how the human brain works, right? So if you really look at a human brain as three significant components, right? The cerebrum, the cerebrellus, and the brain stem.
Okay.
So if you look at the first part, only works on the left brain, and the right brain is thinking and analytics. Mm-hmm. Then the second part is about your motor skills, your balance, your coordination, all of that stuff. So today we are still focusing on one aspect of our brain, not about the emotive side, not about the consciousness side, which AI attempts to look into the future. So today we are still talking about a very minuscule aspect of our brain that AI has succeeded in mimicking, right? Which is about thinking and analyzing things. So I think if you really look at our brain, has about 85 billion neurons and 86 billion axons which connects the neurons, right? So today ChatGPT has attempted to codify 175 billion parameters and the biggest artificial neural network to date, right? So I think I'm just wanting to draw a context even to do small aspects of what our brain does. Today's biggest artificial neural networks have taken 175 billion parameters to program that. So that's how complex it is. So human brain is really a massive AI network which we are still not attempted to understand.
Right. Let's also speak about how the AI model learns. How does it work? If you could perhaps simplify these processes.
Sure. I think if you really look at when a baby is born, right, we have zero memory, right? So similarly, AI network is similar, right? So when you build an analytical model, so you look at a problem, then you look at building an analytical model, and you build an algorithm. So it's like a human brain of a child, which processes things through sensory inputs, and then builds into the capability of saying, how do I refer these things? So AI model is the same. So you will probably look at a problem in terms of what you're trying to solve, and then you tend to feed it with past data, which concerns that problem, and in terms of how it gets solved. So the AI model gets taught in terms of, okay, this is the data, this is the logic, that's the algorithm. So you have data and the algorithm to say, okay, this is the sequence of things which resulted in this. So then it's tried to dissect and say, hey, if I repeat this 100 times, would I get the same results? So that's where then you bring in variance to understand, okay, these are the nuances. Like if you look at the AI engine which beat Garry Kasparov in the chess game, it's similar. So you feed all the permanent combinations of a chess game and the moves.
Right.
So the AI machine can then think faster than a human being sometimes. So that is where you're saying if it's a repetitive thing based on past learning, a computer is faster than a human. Right. So then you need to then look at what is the problem you're trying to solve. So I think in terms of learning ability, we have three models, right? One thing is called the artificial narrow intelligence, artificial general intelligence, special intelligence. To date, most of the model include ChatGPT is on the first part. So when you get to the second and the third one is where you're talking about really cloning a humanoid with human brain capability, which I feel maybe we are 100 years away.
Okay.
Because in terms of the computational power, in terms of the algorithms. So I think today we are trying to solve smaller problems, repetitive problems based on past learnings. So we are unable to predict something in terms of a future knowledge. Where knowledge is acquired by an AI model with past data, which is being fed and trained.
Right.
Like a child saying this is right, this is wrong. So AI is not intuitive. Right?
Okay.
So it is based on the past learning. It tries to mimic things.
Okay. I have several questions along the lines of danger, the ethical concerns. But before getting to that, let's also talk a bit about ChatGPT.
So ChatGPT, if you look at in terms of an AI model, it's a deep learning model, right? So again, on the artificial narrow intelligence schema, where it has taken the textual side of things and been able to correlate so many parameters, including syntaxes of language, looking at knowledge base. So a human brain can only consume so much of knowledge. So ChatGPT, as I said, has 175 billion parameters which have been programmed. And one of the biggest ever artificial intelligence, which also consumes a lot more computational power and storage power, which a single human being may not be able to possess. Right? So that is the power of ChatGPT. Then if you look at taking that artificial neural networks, so obviously the nice way of things is, can you plug that into our brain, which you can't. So the only interface today to ChatGPT is your sensory inputs, right? So you might question again, I want to solve this problem. So I have inference in terms of the information that I have. How do I acquire the other information which I may not have? So the past we would have gone to Google or YouTube to search, right? So today it is doing that for you. And when you search, your search query is based on, you cascade things with plus and all those wildcard characters to define your search term. Here, it is understanding natural language. So which is like you're speaking to someone, asking your teacher, what is the meaning of this? How do I solve this? So that is what ChatGPT is doing, because it has contextual reference of the entire knowledge base of the world.
Right.
Right. And it is building on. So today, a child who is born, when he dies, the knowledge also dies. So in a artificial neural network, the knowledge keeps on accumulating. It never dies. Right? So that's the power of artificial neural network, is the knowledge is insurmountable and it is exponential. Right? So now say today there are ChatGPT variants which are out for even to plan your tour itinerary. Right? So you can see a destination, how many days, where you want to start, it gives you itinerary by day. Right? Because that's the power of it, because it all depends on what you want to solve, at what cost, what's the benefit. Right? So I think that's where the power of this, especially it's being an open source, open AI model, it actually makes it accessible to everyone.
Right.
Unlike the other AI models which are built by the Microsofts, Googles and IBMs and Metas of the world, are proprietary to them, right? So today it actually lowers the cost barrier for anyone to embrace AI. So that's the benefit, whether it's teaching or so leaving aside the ethical side, there's a lot of applications where AI really could come to bear.
One of the key principles of AI is that it must benefit all of humanity. How can the world utilize these exponential developments in technology and artificial intelligence to help in the field of health science?
So I think the biggest opportunity AI could bring is to bring inclusiveness, right? And lower the cost barriers in terms of you being able to access the benefit of that technology and the knowledge base. Say, for example, healthcare. Cancer is a proven thing where today AI is able to compare your the cell patterns and growth, and even specifically say this treatment has worked for these kind of patients, and can predict that this is the best course of action, which oncologists might not be able to figure out sitting in Sri Lanka or sitting in a remote village, not having the access to the database.
Okay.
So it is about looking at the knowledge base of the world in terms of solving the same problem and bringing the scale of knowledge to bear and saying this is the best course of option. Right? So it's called the assisted AI, right? So even it can assist a doctor.
Right.
So it could assist even someone remotely who is not even capable of accessing that information, to give that power at his fingertips. So I think that's where I feel healthcare, especially sustainability, environment, energy, especially from a global scale, there's great benefits. It will definitely reduce the cost of healthcare to all. Like if you take COVID, for example, if not for AI's capability, I don't think you would have come up with the vaccines so fast, right? Because AI would have also helped to kind of zero in on the kind of thing in terms of which would work, and also iteratively improve on the vaccines in term based on the field results, right? So this also helps you to make the course correction faster. Otherwise, your field, what happens on the field, the time you accumulate the data and you take corrective measure, might be a long gestation. More people could have died.
There's a saying that AI must be an ally as opposed to an adversary. There are a lot of naysayers. There's a lot of fear-mongering, misinformation and disinformation when it comes to AI, ChatGPT. Could you help us navigate through this misinformation?
So I would probably draw a parallel between, in our real life example, you take maybe two drivers, the same car, right? So one guy is very responsible driver, another guy reckless, right? So the question would be, blame the car or the driver? So AI is a machine, right?
Okay.
So what AI gets taught is by the mankind, human, right? So the knowledge the AI infers in terms of the model, in terms of the algorithms that you build, how you train, is based on the people who are involved in building it, right? Similar to, say, you send children to school with the hope that they will be taught the right things. But obviously they get rub-on effect of various other information, right? So the whole attempt here is that when you train a model, how much data is enough? So today you want your kid to get an A in maths. How much knowledge is enough? Okay, you send them to school, you send them to tuition, you get extra help. How much knowledge is enough? It's a judgment, right? Because the decision is made on the knowledge base, right? So if you teach them half-baked stuff, obviously that's going to be not so good in terms of results. Say for example, now I'm just saying, you take from a movie like a Robocop, right? So the robot is programmed to say anyone with a weapon is bad guy, neutralize him, right? So even if he sees a child, he will think as a weapon, right? So the issue is sometimes when you, as a human being, your ethical and your consciousness in terms of what is right and wrong may not be right and wrong for a machine, right? Say for example, you're in a vehicle, you're driving. So there are 5 guys crossing and you want to brake but you couldn't. What would you do? And if it was an autonomous vehicle, what would it do? Would it save the family in the car? Or would it save the 10 guys on the crossing? Right? So these are ethical decisions not left to the machine. It's ethical decisions based on the interpretation. Right? If you were a driver, what would you do? It's spontaneous decision, right? It's not based on you thinking what is ethical, what is not ethical. Because ethics is not binary. Right? So it is subjective. Based on the context, who you are, your values, your stuff. So I think that's where a responsible AI and ethical AI is a bit more a difficult thing, because today a lot of people try to monetize AI for commercial reasons. And that's where I feel ethics is for the intent.
Right.
Ethics, I think, is in the intent. Right? The intent is right. I don't think AI will wrong you.
My next question is, who are we leaving in charge to drive or to be in charge of the programming of these machines and processes?
I think that's where I feel the bigger problem lies in terms of today we talk about governance, right? Corporate governance, all kinds of governance in terms of what is right, right? And I think that's where the whole thing about responsible AI has become a huge topic in terms of boardrooms and in a lot of these organizations which are after AI, because a lot of people think AI is a quick way of doing something, whether it's good or bad, if you can make money, right? So if you look at a lot of the startups today, a lot of the venture capitalists are betting on AI, right? But is it the right reasons? until it comes out and until it proves to be right or wrong, you'll never know. Right? So I think that's where corporate ethics, personal ethics comes into bear in terms of being responsible.
Okay.
And accountable for what you are kind of putting out there, right? Because I think that's where so today if you look at internet, it's gone through the same thing. So people might say internet has done more good than bad, but there is evil out there, right? So today cybercrime is because of internet. So you can't say, okay, just because of cybercrime, now stop using internet, right? Same way, even AI, I think there will be obviously artificial intelligence which will be used to curtail the bad sides of AI as well. Similarly, like the cyber tools which are helping cybercrime, right? So with AI, I am sure there will be exploitation, there will be the downside of things, but there will be tools which are powered by AI to solve them as well as we evolve.
Basing this next question on what I've personally witnessed watching movies, you put a bad guy in charge of building these crazy machines. They are going to use their trauma as an outlet to be vengeful with that machine. So what kind of realistic processes, checks and balances must we have to combat evil?
Yeah. So I would think it's a paradox in terms of, say for example, now you teach a child, we always teach our kids good things, but sometimes we don't touch the subject that we are uncomfortable with, but they might stumble upon it, but then they don't know whether it's right or wrong, right? So with a child, it's easy to deal with. Okay, I don't know, we say, okay, don't watch porn, but if he watches, you can deal with it. But in AI, if it stumbles upon new information, it'll just internalize it.
Right.
Until you say this is bad. Right? So the responsibility also in a algorithmic model, in terms of when you're training them on data, you also have to label and say this is good, this is bad, this is ugly. Right? So today ChatGPT, I think there is a case going on as well, because they had to kind of also look at things which were coming out. So you put for the wrong things, it'll generate. So it also now being trained on ethics, where the bad data is also being pushed.
Right.
And the people who have been told to kind of train the bot on the bad data are traumatized.
Okay.
Because they're only doing that, about murder, about all these rape stuff and things, so that if someone searches, it knows this is not something I want to respond to.
Okay. Okay.
Right. So the whole thing in terms of from a human mind to understand what would ChatGPT use for, ethical or non-ethical, how do I manage, right? Do I let it evolve, or do I preempt that this could happen and stop it? Right? It's like the entire internet. So internet in the 90s was uninhibited. Now it's controlled, more censored. Now today you take Facebook, Twitter, all of them have AI models where someone does hate, it gets blocked. You get blocked. That's on AI.
Yeah.
So in all the social media, AI is embedded.
Right.
But today it's trained to identify, is this hate, is this something against our code of ethics? Block this user.
Right.
Block that post and do a review. Right. So it learns.
Okay.
So I think that's the whole aspect of the thing is, you can't blame the machine. It's up to us in terms of looking at what is this machine going to be used. How do I make it understand this is good, this is bad, this is ugly?
We're looking at unprecedented developments. How can the legal systems of the world cope with, combat and arrest evil?
So I personally believe legal system won't evolve fast enough to manage this. So I think that's where I think it's important to bring in this into corporate governance, and also the legal system also have to get equipped with AI tools to manage this, right? So I think it's important to understand, like, you can't fight cybercrime with the normal police force. You have to enable the police force with cyber tools. right? In terms of bringing the cyber laws enforcement. So I think that's where, in terms of what is evolving in the world, in terms of data privacy, the entire thing about even the whole governance mechanism around data is going to be very important. Because today you also want to ensure that today a lot of data about you and I is getting collected, right? So that is not being put to the wrong use. So today, if you look at the American elections, right, users were unconsciously biased in terms of voting for someone because of what they saw,
Right.
the targeted campaign. So I think today you have the opportunity to selectively pump information saying, okay, this guy is now biased towards something else, I want to change this bias.
Right.
So if we raise more of the negative stuff, like the AI model, our mind also will think, okay, I'm seeing more good stuff about this guy, 1,000 guys I liked his post, so maybe a good guy, right? So today, even in Facebook or LinkedIn, when someone says an invite, you look at, okay, how many common friends do I have? Maybe if I have so many common friends, he can't be a bad guy, right?
Yeah.
So it's about inference. What is the data point you use for your decision making and judgment, right? So I think that's where the law enforcement also needs to be dynamic.
Okay.
It can't be something about, you react to something, right? How do I prevent? So prevention is the key thing in terms of in these kind of situations where you should act to prevent rather than react to rectify stuff. So that's where I feel the tools on the other side also has to get developed to compensate for any challenges which might arise.
Okay, fantastic. We are in conversation with Dr. Ramesh Shanmuganathan. We're going for a short commercial break. We'll be right back.
We are prepared in whatever manner to face the elections, and the best way the best party win.
And an election is really a legitimate way in which people can express their opinion.
Country is in a very bad situation and people are looking for change. They want solutions to the problem.
Why must the people have faith in a government that couldn't deliver now at this very important juncture in this country?
Face the Nation every Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. on TV1.
At least 40% of women coming into parliament. There has to be that equal number come as professionals.
I think election expenditure campaign finance is necessary because there are huge sums of money that are spent.
Keep the pressure on the government and on the parliament and the decision makers that enough is enough.
Very good evening to you and a warm welcome to Newsline Live. We are broadcasting, as we almost always do, from the Newsfirst studios in Dorset Street.
Newsline Monday to Friday at 8:30 p.m. on TV1.
ලංකාවේ දේශපාලනය කියලාම අපි කතා කරන්නේ පක්ෂ දේශපාලනය සහ මනාප තරගයත් එක්ක අවස්ථාවන් ලබා ගැනීම ගැන.
මේ රට කරවන සම්බන්ධ වෙන ඒගොල්ලන් තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ මගේ රට අපේ රට අවුරුදු මෙන්න මේ කාලෙකින් පසුවේ මෙන්න මේ විදියට මෙතන තියෙන්න ඕනේ කියලා හීනයි. ඒ හීනය සාක්ෂාත් කරගන්න තමයි අපි උත්සාහ ගන්න ඕනේ.
අපි කුඩා පිරිසක් වෙන්න පුළුවන්. හැබැයි මේ කුඩා පිරිස මේ ලෝකයේ වෙනස් කිරීමේහිලා දක්වන දායකත්වය ඉතාම ඉහළයි කියලා තමයි අපි හිතන්නේ.
මේ වෙලාවේදී දැන් අපේ රට බංකුලොත් රටක් විදිහට රටේ ආර්ථිකය ශක්තිමත් කරන්නට ඕනේ ඉතාමත්ම කඩිනමින් අපේ රටේ අස්ථාවර දේශපාලනය ඉතාමත්ම ඉක්මනින් නගා සිටුවීමේ කාලය ඇවිල්ලා කියලා අපි විශ්වාස කරනවා.
ජාතික මෙහෙවර සතියේ දිනවල උදෑසන 10:00ට TV1 ඔස්සේ.
Welcome back. You're with the People's Platform. We're discussing the role of artificial intelligence in powering innovation. We're in conversation with Dr. Ramesh Shanmuganathan. Ramesh, let's speak a bit about Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka, something that we find is that we lack the skill set when it comes to citizen protection. If we take this concept of collation of data, prevention of crime, IT AI is not being used adequately. So if we take a person's information, it will be in some file, in some government department. It's not digitized adequately. How can we use AI in ensuring this concept of citizen protection in Sri Lanka?
So I think the fundamental things is, I think you need to have especially as I said, in a physical world to digital world, something called digital identity.
Okay.
So which Sri Lanka still lacks.
Right.
And we have passport, we have NIC, we have driving licenses, which are probably not every citizen has, right? And also it's not correlated. So today, if you are able to correlate data, then you can build an analytical model to understand who is a ideal citizen's profile.
Okay.
Right? What attributes, right? So like ChatGPT has 175 billion attributes. Then you profile the ideal person's attribute. So then you can sense the behavioral aspects. So that's why I said, so obviously there's ethical aspect in terms of collating the data, because a lot of today your digital identity is pinned to your mobile number.
Okay.
Where you always walk with your mobile. So that's the easiest way to track your location-based thing based on your mobile. But in Sri Lankan context, 90% of the mobile users are prepaid. So which would mean the numbers could change. Number is not fixed, right? So there is that's where there is no foolproof identity management solution, identity to tag a human being. So then when you start building data, you can accumulate traffic violations, whatever other aspects. So then you could profile this guy against your ideal citizen.
Right.
Is he deviating 10%, 20%? Is he a risk to society? So that's the whole thing is about in terms of what do you want to do, what do you want the model to know, and how do you really detect deviations.
So this is done in other countries, right?
So if you look at in most countries, if you look at even in drug prevention and all that, that's how they know the guys who are doing it and they track them.
So if it's not rocket science, why do you think it's not being done in Sri Lanka?
So I think the biggest challenge is the cost of AI is very high.
Okay.
Right. So today ChatGPT has been the first attempt from an open AI platform point of view to liberate that whole thing, right? Because today AI consumes, as I said, 175 billion variants would mean it's a huge data center, huge computational power, huge power cost. So Sri Lanka may not be able to afford that if they were to build an AI model for them. So ChatGPT could be a way that they could build something on top of it, right? But so there are models which we can leverage to build subset of things on top of it, right? So I think that's where now even citizen services, like could be built on top of ChatGPT, right? So that's the way probably Sri Lanka could fast get into AI by adopting the open source AI platform and build services on top of it for their citizens.
Okay, and going forward, the Sri Lankan government needs to also have budgetary allocations.
Definitely.
In this
because I think that will be the fastest way to digitize government today, right? So if you leverage ChatGPT, I think you could really digitize a lot of the citizens-facing services.
Right. Now, this digital transformation, it's also very much a disruptive process.
Yes.
And I'm getting my questions from, and I'd like to credit the source, Effects of Digital Transformation on the Human Capital by Charit De Silva. Fantastic article. So it's very much disruptive. We're looking at possible job displacement with automation, upskilling and reskilling, which means employees have to unlearn old ways of operating, learn new skills. Roles and responsibilities will change due to lean and focused structures. There'll be a cultural shift causing emotional and psychological stress. Talk to us about these aspects.
Sure, I think those are real kind of aspects that we need to face as part of the responsible adoption of responsible AI, responsible transformation. Because if you look at compared to about a century back, today the disruptive technology cycle has got reduced. So those days you see disruptive tech maybe every 30 years, 10 years, now is 5 years, 2-3 years. So the whole aspect is today technology is taking exponential curve in terms of growth. So which also puts pressure back on us as a society, as countries, as nations, as a world in terms of how do we grapple with this.
Right.
With all these AI systems which are evolving, so that's why today we are faced with the ethical issue. Okay, what if a student asks ChatGPT and submits an assignment?
Yeah.
Do we score it or do we discard it? Can we detect it? Right? So is there any point in giving such assignments? Or should we ask test students to see how they could apply these tools?
Right.
So that they become more productive when they graduate and come into work environment, they are equipped with these modern tools and not the archaic stuff which was done 10 years back. So I think that's where I feel the whole society has to evolve, understand what's happening in the world and see what do we need to change.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So we can't stop technology evolving.
Okay,
We
so
can't
we need
stop
a
evolution.
rethink.
Exactly. At the grassroots. So I think that's what is important. So then the skills training, even if you look at as an organization, HR, or as an organization in terms of skills, what skills would you train your employees on? How would you ensure that they are relevant for next 5 years?
Okay.
Are they aware of what's going to hit them?
Right. And one more question that I wanted to ask you when you spoke of digitization and citizen protection, at the other end of the spectrum is data protection.
Yes.
Sri Lanka just enacted
Yes.
a Data Protection Act quite recently, but then there are these concerns, right? Speak to us about that.
I think the fundamental thing in ethical AI, responsible AI, is in terms of use and abuse of data, right? So I think we are timely in having kind of gazetted that and implemented that, but that's at a policy level.
Okay.
Are we in a position to enforce it?
Right.
Are we in a position to detect misuse? So I think that's where I think the whole thing is. Always say you can have a policy or a law. Enforcement is reactive. So which would mean that crime or the thing has occurred and now you're trying to do a post-mortem. So prevention is the key thing. So how do you prevent abuse or misuse, right? I think so that's where even AI models could get built in terms of ensuring that data which leaves a person prior is anonymized, right? So that they don't know who you are.
Okay.
So today I'm just saying now we use Google Maps, right? So a lot of privileged information is known. They know where you go, right? They know your lifestyle, right? What are your frequently visited places? That information is there. But are they using it for the right reasons, wrong reasons? Right? So that is the conundrum of choices and decisions is that there is enough data to kind of profile anyone.
Okay.
But today either we don't have the means to do it or we don't know who's doing it and for what purpose. Right? There is no disclosure. Right? So that's where today if you look at consent management has become a key aspect in all the information collection where explicit consent have to be given even if I want to send you a promotion. Right? Otherwise, you're saying, I don't want you to use my data.
Yeah.
Right? So citizens also must get aware of their rights, not about their human rights, data rights.
Right.
Right? So today, I think that evolution is as technology proliferates and takes an exponential curve, humans also have to be educated in terms of what they need to know so that they can protect themselves adequately.
In the Sri Lankan context, how must we create a culture of openness when it comes to AI? How must it permeate from the state to government departments, to schools, to universities, to garment factories, to the corporate sector, to society and students?
So I think the huge opportunity that we have is in terms of AI actually becoming a glue in terms of bringing the societies together in terms of unity and diversity, right? So I think that's where at the policy level now today, I'm just saying you go to a government department, you will have people speaking Tamil, Sinhala, a different language, but they may not get the same level of service because of not having free and open flow communication. But today, if you enable that on self-service, where this person could communicate on whatever language they want, and at the back end you can have a knowledge base to service the person, you have achieved the same thing. So today I feel barriers are something we have created in our physical world. In the digital world, there are no barriers, right? So we have to be conscious that our biases in the physical world don't get into an AI model or a process or system we are implementing, which are going to benefit the masses or trying to reverse what is happening, right? I think that's where I think the biggest opportunity we have when we are bringing these technologies in, to look at what is the change we would want to aspire for ourselves,
right,
and how do you really want to drive it, whether it's schools, whether it's universities, whether it's in a department, ministry, or in the country.
Okay. At present, are you aware of any state level conversations or discourses that are happening?
So today, if you look at, I think obviously USA, even in I know in UAE, Singapore, they have 100% or near 100% visibility of a lot of stuff, right? So today, even in India, especially even tracking of criminals and terrorists, so even cameras on the streets are analyzing people's profiles, faces to match with terrorist records.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So the issue is in terms of what is that you're trying to solve.
Okay.
Right. I think the biggest challenge I see is a lot of people are not aware of what's the problem you want to solve and whether it's at scale and whether it's worth solving. Right. So it's a function of idea or a problem. What is the investment? What is the return? Right. So I think because AI is not going to be cheap. So I think that's where collaboration between states, a common platform, sharing of data, which will become very beneficial. Right.
And how important is it for the government of Sri Lanka in this context to work together with IT professionals from the corporate sector, university graduates from state universities, private universities, other international experts on AI and IT, because we need to get this conversation, this discourse going. And that's not happening at
I think it's very important, because I think that's where I always say, whilst we build physical infrastructures, for Sri Lanka, digital infrastructure is going to be the key differentiator.
Right.
Right. So, and connecting the dots, whether be it India or China, or because I think if we can really enable that platform, I feel we will also benefit by being part of a digital ecosystem, which can be safe, secure, and also can give us that benefit in terms of the upside, in terms of whatever we want to do as Sri Lanka.
What must the relevant policy makers do, Ramesh?
I think in terms of, obviously, as I said, it has to start from the education system as well.
Okay.
In terms of people also trying to understand, because in time to come, things are going to evolve, right? And obviously, we are going to have a humanoid which could or be at least an equivalent to a human being, but with maybe 1 million times the brain power that an average human being might have, right, with collective intelligence. So how do you really bring that to bear, and how do you really leverage that for your country? In terms of, I'm just saying, today even you take education, right? Do we say that every student who really more aspires to learn has the same opportunity? No, it's in terms of what that his or her parents could afford.
Yeah.
So AI could break that. So AI and tech today have the opportunity to create neutrality, right? Make the world more flatter, make and create equality for all, right? I think so. Today we talk about diversity and inclusion. We talk about environment, social governance. So all of those becomes more realizable if you really embrace tech and look at AI as a method to drive that and accelerate that to the citizens.
Okay. What is the way forward in an AI-powered world?
So it's a bit of a question which I don't know. It can go whichever way, because today I feel we are at a critical juncture where AI is being experimented in diverse areas. So to create stickiness, I think we need to have a critical mass. So I don't think in many countries we have got the critical mass in terms of AI being used to the 10th level. So I think that's where we got to put the safeguards in terms of the data governance, the usage, and also maybe start experimenting things in terms of where do we feel this could be more applicable to Sri Lanka and in terms of businesses, right? So obviously today we talk about personalization, I think which is being practiced already in terms of giving better solutions in terms of management of transportation, like your Google Maps. Then we have all these bots which are happening, including your Alexas to all of those stuff. So today AI in terms of assisting humanoids or humans is already there, right? So we need to now look at what is the next iteration where we have a cost barrier that we want to break with AI, right? Or we want to enhance services where we want to use AI. So I think it's a thing about what is the context, what's the problem that we are trying to solve, and for whom. So I think that's if we frame that properly, I think the opportunities are there, definitely. And I think we should not discard AI as, again, like internet, right? I think we should be an early adapter as a country, and I think we would definitely benefit from that.
Okay, so Sri Lanka needs to act fast.
Yes.
All right.
To be relevant in the world, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. I'd like to end the program with a quote by Beth Novak, Director, New York University Governance Lab, who says, if we are to realize the positives of AI, we first need to change its governance and ensure that these technologies are designed in a more participatory fashion with input and oversight from diverse audiences, including those most affected by them. Thank you very much, Dr. Ramesh Shanmuganathan, for this very insightful discourse. Thank you.
Thanks, Sonal. Thanks for having me here.
All right, fantastic. We'll see you again on Monday with the single edition of the People's Platform. Have a safe weekend. Good night.